I'm Teri. Welcome to Adventures in Nature. Boy, have I got an adventure for you today. We're going to meet up with Daphne. She's with the Billbags Cape Florida State Park. Daphne's going to take us on a butterfly walk. We're going to see all kinds of wonderful butterflies. She's going to tell us about the trees, the flora, the fauna. It's going to be great fun. So come on with me. We're going to Billbags Cape Florida State Park.
Hi, my name is Daphne Green and I'm a Park Service Specialist here at Billbags Cape Florida State Park. And at this moment we're in No Name Harbor parking lot where we start our butterfly walk. Pollinators are nearly as important as sunlight, soil, and water. Pollination is important because it leads to the production of fruit we can eat. These hard-working animals help pollinate over 75% of our flowering plants and nearly 75% of our crops. Butterflies may not pollinate as much as bees do, but they are still just as important. Here at Billbags Cape Florida State Park, you have around 50 different butterflies you can see. Summertime is always the best time to view butterflies in our park because it's nice and warm, but you can still see butterflies year-round. Please come out and join us on our butterfly walks on Saturdays from 10 to 11 o'clock to enjoy the breathtaking views and the many species of butterflies you're possibly to see, especially our top 10 monarch butterflies, zebra longwings, which is actually our state butterfly.
Tell me about the striped butterfly. I know you said it's a state butterfly, so that's pretty impressive. But what are the characteristics of the zebra butterfly?
Our zebra butterfly is actually our state butterfly established in 1996. If you look at the zebra longwing butterfly, it actually has stripes on it, and that's why it gets its name, zebra butterfly.
Oh, it looks like a zebra.
Yeah, and on my paper too, if it helps,
yeah.
You can see the number 2. This is the ID that I actually give all the visitors that come to the park. I'll give them this to look at, and so they'll have the stripes on it, so it's very easy to identify as the zebra longwing.
And how long will a zebra butterfly live
About 5 to 6 months.
Is that considered a long time?
Yes, for the butterfly world, that's considered a long time for the fact that this particular butterfly will actually eat the nectar and the pollen, and it'll actually, when it goes to that flower, it collects all the pollen from it on their proboscis, which is actually their tongue.
We have a proboscis.
So what happens is when it lands on the leaf, it'll actually go ahead and start feeding on it and break down the amino acids in that pollen, and that's what helps them live for a longer period of time.
Oh, so they eat a little hardier. They're a little healthier.
So that's what helps them, because some butterflies can live only 14 days, considering. So,
wow, that's not very long.
And another cool thing about that particular butterfly, the zebra longwing, is that they're actually a social butterfly. Yeah. So in the evening time, they go back to the same roosting area. So they have this nice branch they all pick out, right? And they think about it. They all go and land on it, and then they can talk about their day of what happened. Then the next morning comes, then they're like, all right, see you, Charlie, and we're going to go fly around and then find something else, other food and stuff like that, and then reestablish back at night again. So that's a neat thing with them, especially in our park, to see, since the island of Key Biscayne, people like to be social, and to have that state butterfly being social too, I think is a pretty cool thing. So
it's kind of a Key Biscayne butterfly, I would say.
Yeah, but what's cool about the zebra is actually they'll go back into the woods and hang out in there, and it doesn't need to be on the sun. Because some butterflies, they have those bright colors not only to help deter predators, like our monarch butterfly, it'll have that bright orange to say, hey, stay away from me. But you have the zebra that it does not care. It can go into the woods and fly away and be like, I'm fine in here. But some will need to stay out longer too, because of that bright color. The sun acts as, the wings, I should say, on the butterfly acts as like solar panels. So the more you touch the butterfly wing, which is not recommended, you're actually taking away those solar panels, and you're helping them not be staying warm.
And then do they lay larvae? Is what butterflies do?
You have their eggs. Then you have the larva, which when the egg hatches out from the butterfly, you're actually having those little caterpillars going around, and usually they pick a host plant, is what the mom butterfly would actually go to. So for an example, with our monarch butterfly, you have it where they like milkweeds. So what they do is they'll plant their eggs on the leaves of that milkweed on the underside of it, and when they hatch out, the babies are already at the supermarket, basically, you can say. They're already able to feed right there on that leaf and devour pretty much that whole plant. So now they're getting all the food that they need to grow up into a big, healthy caterpillar, and then it'll turn into have that cocoon stage, if you want to say, the chrysalis. So it'll be hanging now from a branch until it's ready to turn into the butterfly. So,
and does this happen all year long, or is this a season?
it's seasonal for some. Like it varies. Summertime is always the best chance to see lots of butterflies, and then you'll have the ones starting to go through and put their eggs underneath the leaves and such. That way they can grow. But it also depends. Vegetation has different periods of when it grows, so it just depends on that. The monarch butterfly will actually fly, has a migration. So what happens is when the milkweeds are there in a certain area that they're in, they'll eat up on all those milkweeds, have their babies on there, and then move on. But when the milkweeds leave for the season, that's it. Now the monarchs know to leave because there's no more food here.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What plants are they attracted to that they can lay their eggs on?
The zebra butterfly actually likes passion vine.
Passion vine.
Yes.
And will we see that on our walk?
Yes, you'll see that on your walk.
Okay, I'm
So
looking
I'll point
forward
for
to that. So take us on to the butterflies.
All right. The passion vine, so it'll creep around and it likes to stay low. As you can see all through here, it takes over all the ground cover, and now you have the Gulf fritillary and a zebra hanging around. So they're gonna go for any nectar plant that they can get, but definitely the larva of the zebra will definitely like this guy. We have an idea of why we get so many zebra butterflies here. And one thing to say too, the reason why we have an idea of the types of butterflies we have here is we have surveys that we do. So the biologists of the park will have volunteers that come in along with myself and whoever else is available, and we actually will count every butterfly we see. Now we have to be careful sometimes to make sure we don't double count from one from behind, but we try to spread ourselves out to make sure that we get it. Larry, those two orange butterflies flying around, those are Gulf fritillary, of course. But you have it too where, you know, they have predators. Butterflies in general and all pollinators have predators. And with our park, since we have a lot of invasive species, for example, black-spiny-tailed iguana, which is now colonizing the area, and they can actually jump 2 feet off the ground to try to catch one of these butterflies going by. Around 50 species that you can see throughout the year, but this time of year definitely going to have these 10. Not necessarily have to have binoculars to view them, because certain species, like say here the white peacock, they will actually stay pretty close to you. They don't get offended, or you know, they don't get scared as easy. These are the ones you can see most often when you go on your hikes during the summertime. And the white peacocks, they'll mess around with each other. There's like 2 or 3 of them going around.
So they do the dance, like where they're like, oh, check out how big my wings are, and
to a point they do.
Okay.
When they do that, yeah, when they're flying around the air. Now here I have some glasses that actually can portray what a butterfly would be looking at if you were a butterfly.
because they.
You don't want to have too many movements
goodness.
either because it can disturb them, but these guys aren't as bad.
Oh my goodness. Well.
Now you see like 100 of them.
Yeah, well, every one of them's pretty. Wow. Does it dissolve the light? Is this the same type of light that they're absorbing? Or?
Well, the light is going to be, that's going to be different, just to show you the view of it.
This is
But
very
in general, light will mess with the butterflies, their moths. For our park, we have 506 acres, and our populations here are healthy. And what helps is you're not having the overspray or spraying in general in our park, which are affecting other pollinators on the mainland. That because of mosquito populations and stuff like that, and with all the Zika virus and stuff, you know, which is bad for humans. But of course, if we don't think about the long term too for our pollinators, which, like I said earlier, 75% of our crops and our food supply comes from pollinators giving us our food. And ever since Hurricane Andrew hit in 1992, it was a great help because it got rid of all the Australian pine trees. And when that happened, they brought in all the native species back to this park because the state of Florida closed the park down for a year, and they revamped everything and brought all the native species in, and now the birds are able to come back and feed. So that was a big help, and this is partly why they wanted to have this plaque here to show, you know, all the good things that have happened now, and for you to recognize that. This is a great park for birding. We get a lot of birders that come through. Back in February, we had even a Kirkland Warbler that was spotted here, and it was over in that direction, which is towards our mangrove trail. And it was feeding over on the wild sage that you find there. And normally that bird won't be around this area. It goes up to Michigan or it stays in the Bahamas. So for it to stop over here, it was like, yes! So you had like 60 birders come over and hang out on that trail, literally, and you're like trying to move around, try to see the bird. And that was a cool thing. And that just helps and shows what the Florida Park Service is doing to help preserve these areas and still have recreation for everybody to enjoy. So we have the best of both worlds in all our state parks. So I think that's a cool thing.
A Jamaican.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And that's native to this area?
That's native. Buttonwood, of course. Buttonwood's native. This guy here, that's the buttonwood tree.
Buttonwood.
Do you want to go over and hold it again? Oh.
Okay, so they call it buttonwood because you can see with the seeds.
seeds.
They kind of look like buttons. Yeah, those are the seeds from it. So. The sea grape. This is another one when the hurricanes come through and when you're saying when the trees are losing all their leaves, they can go bad because it's a native species. So they know how to, deal with it. It also gets the name sea grape for the fact that the seeds that it has, like the fruit, it actually looks like a whole bunch of sea grapes, or grapes, I should say. So they gave it the name sea grapes, and normally they're a coastal species.
Can you eat the sea grapes?
You can, they're edible. They usually make wines and jams.
Letting them sit for a bit.
Yeah.
Helps.
Yeah, I personally haven't just eaten off the tree, but I can show you another plant and cocoa plum, which you can actually eat right off and consume it.
It's probably a little bitter.
Yeah, it's a little dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been seeing a few dragonflies around, which is good too because dragonflies can migrate. And so another helpful insect in this area for that is the dragonfly because they can help eat all small bugs. So they go after the mosquitoes and gnats and such.
Good.
So yeah, when you see them flying around through the air, that's a good thing because they're sitting there getting all the bugs.
Okay.
Here's a sea grape tree again, and when I was saying it looks like grapes, here's your example. These aren't ripe yet though. They're still growing.
But they are edible, you said.
They're edible.
But you have to do something to them to eat?
Usually they make wines and jams, so they ferment them. A golden silk orb weaver. They're generally, we don't have anything venomous in this park unless someone introduces it. And the only problem you could have with this spider is if you're allergic to bees and it stings you, like it bites you if it's not happy with you. But if you're just holding it like this, it doesn't feel threatened. And the females are going to be the larger ones. So this one is potentially the female that's continuing to grow. Yeah, on the trails, normally they'll hang out higher because they know people will walk through. But once you get off the trail, like if you start stepping in, they're like, you're on our turf now. We're going to stay low. Like I had a good example of one at the house because it started making its web. She was making her, when you go through the door, she was right here. So I would constantly duck under, open the door, go in. As the week went on, she moved up. So it got to the point where she went up. Yeah. With the Miami blue butterfly, it's actually an endangered species. And you can't find them in this area anymore, but if you go down, it's not on here. It's not on here. But they're now only finding them down the Florida Keys. And they have a symbiotic relationship with carpenter ants. So what happens is the carpenter ant will actually defend it in turn that Miami blue caterpillar is actually giving it food.
Wow.
And because the Miami blue caterpillar will be hanging out, right? And here comes the carpenter ant. And it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to mess with you. And then I'm going to pop out, because I'm the caterpillar, I'm going to pop out a little gland, and I'm going to secrete nectar. Right. And it's going to feed that ant. So in turn, no, it doesn't hurt it. So in turn, the ant's like, since you helped me out and gave me food, I'm going to protect you, little caterpillar, so you can grow up. So yeah. So some of the problems that they're having now is they're saying, one of the theories is the carpenter ants are getting pushed out from the non-native species of fire ants. So if they start losing the carpenter ants, the Miami blue has a harder time growing up because they're losing their friend that helps them.
Yeah.
So the sound that you're hearing is going to be the cicada, and we have them in the park, as you can hear. You don't really see them because it's a bug that's just hanging on either the bark here. It could just sit just real still like this and start making its noise. But it can fly, so it can fly around to different spots. Now, one thing we've noticed when they land on their branches of different trees, if there is an iguana around, like for example that invasive black spiny tail iguana, and if it sees it, it'll go over and eat that native species, and then we're just like, okay, that's not good. I've seen that firsthand, and it's not fun. But yeah, so what you're hearing are a whole lot of cicadas. And then the summertime is when it's prominent that you'll hear it. The hotter it gets, you'll hear the cicadas out too. But once the winter comes, it dies off and you won't hear them. All this is Stoppard, and it just takes over.
And white Stoppard is not native?
It is native. This one's native. And you can see how some plants, the way they take over, they just, here I am, here I go. Because when they drop their seeds, they just pop up right there. So this is one, you don't have to keep it in check too often, but if along a trail, like if we didn't keep this trail groomed, this Stoppard would be taking over and growing, because you can see it coming on both sides.
He's eating it. He's eating right now.
Oh, another spider.
Oh yeah, this one's got a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh wow, yeah, look at all those beans. I think those are beans.
Here they are.
Like, oh.
Yeah. But she's totally munching on down, guys.
Oh yeah.
I'll know more when I get back.
I do love that they are, like, it's just above the head is where they build them. It's pretty crazy. Very cute.
Stay up high or stay out? So the green iguanas and the black spiny tail iguanas, when they're babies, they actually resemble each other because they're both green when they start out.
Oh.
And they both are eating their insects. However, when the green iguana becomes an adult, it stops feeding on insects and goes strictly to vegetation. And they turn herbaceous. And then the black spiny tail doesn't. It'll actually stay omnivores and continue to eat both plants and animals. The day blooming jasmine right here. And I'll put this behind there. Normally it'll have the purple seeds on it, but this time of year it doesn't have it. It's not seeding. That or it already put off its seeds, it depends. But this one, the birds like to eat the seeds, and that's what's having a problem with eradicating the plant, because you can get rid of this plant here, but if the bird already consumed the seeds, it's flying off to another location of the park, pooping out the seed, and now you got a new plant growing there. So you could have worked that whole area, and now you're back to square one because now you got more seeds. Specifically on...
Injected pretty much. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good though.
But it'll have purple seeds that it gives off, and the birds love it. This right here is a Sable Palm tree, also known as a Cabbage Palm. And this is actually our state tree. So in this park, you're going to find a lot of Sable Palm here. And they do reproduce quick. So you can plant a couple of them and they'll just take over.
And how does a Sable Palm look different than another palm tree?
Well, with the way the leaves are in the stalk, like for an example, which is further down, we actually have saw palmetto in the park. And saw palmetto, if you actually look along the branch itself, you have it serrated, whereas the Sable Palm does not. But you can see just how it grows up, and generally it won't die off right away. Like it'll have a few branches that'll die, but normally it'll stay green for a long time until it gets to its proper size. The Spanish needle. This is something you'll find in yards. This is a native weed, and the pollinators, I mean, you'll have the butterflies, you'll have bees, you'll have wasps, you have a lot of different pollinators that actually will go to this plant, because you'll see that it has a lot of pollen and nectar to offer. But if you look in housing developments and such, in developed areas in general, they find this to not be attractive, and they don't want it in their yards because they think it's just a weed that's invasive to them, and it just doesn't make their yard look pretty. And in fact, this is just a great thing to have for pollinators. That's Virginia creeper. The birds will eat the seeds off of this. This is a native vine.
It's native?
Mm-hmm. Virginia creeper. And you can see because it'll creep. It'll creep along the ground, and then when it finds a tree, it takes over, as you can see.
So did it kill the tree, or was it a dead tree to begin with?
It depends. Usually this could have been a dead branch, and it could have taken it over, or it does happen where it'll take a live branch, like you can see up there. It'll take it over too. So it tries to be symbiotic with it, but it doesn't always work out. And also a cool thing is, if you're zooming in on that zebra butterfly that's on the Spanish needle, they actually taste with their feet, butterflies in general. So as soon as they land on the flower, they're already tasting if it's going to be good or bad to eat. And you'll see when you plant native species in your yards, you're actually having less maintenance in the long run. You know, it's used to drought or it's used to the cold, depending on what climate you're in. Sure. So here's the Brazilian pepper tree. And this one, if that helps, it'll actually have it where when you smell the leaves, it smells like turpentine. So if you're not familiar with it, you can actually touch this leaf and pull one off. And if you smell it, or you can have this one if you want.
Yeah, I don't want to pull too many.
Yeah. Well, that's actually okay because it's not native.
It's not native.
Pull the whole thing down. But yeah, this guy will have, the females will have the red seeds on it, and the males won't have any seeds at all. And the birds, just like the day-blooming jasmine, they love the seeds off of this one as well. So this is another one that's hard to eradicate for the fact that when they eat the seeds, you can have an area that's already finished with being, you know, you'd have eliminated all those non-native species. But if the bird goes and lands on a branch of a native one, it's going to poop out the seeds, and now you're back to square one. That is the baby of the black spiny-tailed iguana. When the green iguanas and the black spiny-tailed iguanas have babies, the two different species start out looking the same. But if you look close enough to it, on the black spiny-tailed iguana babies, like this one right here, the tail is going to be different, it'll be blacker, and on the back, you're going to see dots, you'll see black on it. So this is a native strangler fig tree. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that lasted when Hurricane Andrew was here. It's definitely possible because we have a lot of huge strangler fig trees. Our saw palmetto tree, palm, and it's different from our sable palm tree for the fact that this guy, the sable palm, will grow very tall, whereas our saw palmetto will maybe get no more than maybe 15 feet at the most, and that's pushing it. And these guys, it's actually, they can hold a lot of fuel. So our park in the past has had prescribed burns, and what happens is it helps keep the park in check and keeps the fuel levels down for certain species of plants. In particular, it'd be our plant, the saw palmetto. So if we don't have too many fires and it just accumulates a lot of the fuel, then if lightning strike happens, it can let loose and you're gonna have a lot of acres burned because of the way this guy burns. But in general, it's a cool plant to have because it's native to the area. You can have marsh rabbits, which you find in our park, which are native. They like this, and raccoons, which are native. They'll actually hang out underneath in little hollows of the plant, and it's a good habitat where they can like make little dens out of it, their little houses. And here, it took about 20 years, is what our biologist was saying, to have viable seeds now. So ever since Hurricane Andrew hit in 1992, it took around 22 years or so just to get viable seeds. And now this is great because now they're able to fend for themselves per se and spread their seeds around, and the squirrels love to help spread the seeds. So you'll see the squirrels taking the seeds and heading off in another direction to eat it, and now you're spreading the saw palmetto to another area, which is good. Right here we have our Sable Palm, or the Cabbage Palm tree, and a good specimen of showing how you have the strangler fig tree attaching itself to the Sable Palm. It gets its name, strangler fig, for the fact that when the bird comes and lands on the palm tree, it disperses the seeds when it poops, and in this case, the strangler fig seeds is what the bird was eating on. And so now you have a strangler fig growing. And with this tree, it doesn't have to grow from the ground. It can grow from the tree and work its way to the ground. So here you actually see the root system that's starting to work its way down from the strangler fig, and eventually, if it's left alone, in time the roots touch the ground and start rooting into the ground and start growing from there and get thicker and thicker. And the tree itself will actually also go around the palm itself and strangle it out. So in time, if it's not lucky, but you can actually get to see the strangler fig actually engulf the palm tree, and you won't see it anymore. You'll just see the huge strangler fig. And another example to show that you can get a nice visual was showing what the birds do to help disperse either our native species of trees or our non-natives. In this case, you have a native strangler fig being dispersed over here, but some birds won't always eat strangler fig seeds. It'll eat our non-native plants, which are our Brazilian pepper. So when it eats those seeds, you can get an idea of these birds. You can see all the strangler fig that are native. You can see everywhere there's a bird. A bird has been, I should say. So here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sable palms with our native strangler fig, but you have 5 different trees too where the bird was actually feeding at. So say the bird was feeding on Brazilian pepper trees and eating those seeds, and if they landed in 5 different areas, now you're going to have 5 new pepper trees in those areas. So you can kind of get an idea of what happens just from seeing our native species here and what the bird has done for it.
Hi, my name is Guillermo Fernandez, and I'm a state park ranger here at Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park. Today I will be filming for the butterfly tour.
All of nature's creatures are important, but the pollinators have a very special role. The butterflies and the bees, they pollinate, so we have strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, we have all the fruits and vegetables, and also the flowers. They're very susceptible to pesticides, so try not to spray pesticides in your personal garden. And when you go shopping, try and buy organic. This will let the farmers know that we don't want pesticides. We don't want them damaging our insects, and especially the pollinators. I'm Teri. I hope you enjoyed our butterfly walk at Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park.
I'm Seth, and I'm from Oklahoma.
And I'm Amanda from Oklahoma as well.
You have a good time today?
So
Yeah,
far, so great.
really
It's
good.
been really beautiful. It's a nice experience.
Educational.
Learned a lot, yeah. So.